They noticed. Oh, they noticed. The day you stopped chasing, they felt the silence. You know that moment when your energy shifts, not loudly, not with an announcement, but quietly. When you just let go, you didn't send a message. You didn't beg to stay. You just disappeared, and they felt it. Because people always feel the absence of a soul that once made an effort for them, the kind of soul that shows up, checks in, holds space. When you stop looking for them, they feel something more powerful than your presence, your absence. Let me tell you something. When you stop chasing, they stop running. When you stop proving your worth to those who are blind to it, they start wondering what they missed. And suddenly the silence you left behind, it echoes louder than your words ever did. They finally realize the depth of your presence because now it's gone. At first, it doesn't hit them all at once. It creeps in slow. Like a room they used to sit in that suddenly feels colder. You used to bring a kind of warmth they didn't even know they were feeling. It wasn't loud. It wasn't flashy. It was just there. Your presence had a quiet power to it. You showed up with intention. You remembered the little things they said. You checked in when they went quiet. You gave when they didn't ask. You were consistent without needing applause. But people get used to good things. They start to treat your kindness like it's part of the scenery. Always there, always available. They assume you'll keep showing up because that's just what you do. You make the effort. You care deeply. And because you care so easily, they don't imagine a world where you'd ever stop. But here's the thing. When you're always the one reaching out, always the one initiating, always the one making space for someone else, it can start to wear you out. And eventually you stop. Not out of anger. Not to teach them a lesson. You just get tired of being the only one holding the line. And so you let it go. Softly, silently. And that's when it hits them, not instantly, but over time. It starts with a little pause in their routine. They go to send you something, a meme, a song, an update. And they remember you haven't texted in a while. They scroll through their messages and realize it's been a minute. You haven't checked in. You haven't asked how they're doing. You haven't been there like you always were. And that absence, that's when the thoughts begin. Did something happen? Did I do something wrong? Are they mad at me? They might not say it out loud. Some won't admit they notice, but they feel it. Your silence becomes a mirror. And for the first time, they're not looking at you. They're looking at how they showed up or how they didn't. And that reflection is uncomfortable. Because here's what's real. They didn't think you'd walk away. Not really. You had been so reliable, so steady. They didn't think you'd ever stop showing up because they assumed your love was unconditional without boundaries. But unconditional love doesn't mean endless self-sacrifice. It doesn't mean abandoning your own peace just to keep someone else comfortable. And when they realize you've gone, not in body, but in energy, they start to feel the weight of what you carried, all the effort, all the time, all the emotional labor, things they didn't notice before. It becomes clear, you didn't just care, you held the connection. And when you stopped holding it, it fell apart. That's when it clicks. They didn't just lose a person, they lost a presence. They didn't realize how much comfort you brought until it disappeared. That's the thing about people like you. Your presence becomes part of the background, like light in a room. You don't notice it until it flickers or fades. You made things easier without asking for credit. You made people feel understood, even when they couldn't find the words. And they didn't even have to ask. You just knew. You had that quiet intuition, that natural way of sensing when someone wasn't okay. Even behind the fake smiles and the feintjes, you did it so naturally, they got used to it. They got used to it. They got used to having someone to fall back on. Someone who'd listen without judgment. Someone who'd give them grace on their worst days and still celebrate them on their best. That kind of comfort becomes a habit for people, one they don't even realize they've developed. They start expecting it, depending on it, but not valuing it. Then you stop, not to hurt them, not to play games. You just stop offering what they no longer seem to see. You pull your energy back, you stop overextending. You stop being available for everything and everyone. You start being there for yourself. And without warning, the dynamic shifts. Suddenly, they're alone with their thoughts. There's no one texting them out of nowhere to check in. No more, "Hey, just thought of you" messages. No more soft places to land when the world gets too loud. They realize the silence isn't just silence. It's the absence of you. The way you used to make things feel lighter. The way you'd make space for their emotions even when yours were heavy. All of that gone. Now their phone still lights up, but it doesn't hit the same. Other people might still be around, but the connection feels shallow. The depth you brought, that can't be copied, that can't be replaced. And it definitely can't be forced. You were the one who saw them in ways others didn't. You saw past the surface, past the noise. You offered understanding, not just attention. Without you, things feel different. Not chaotic, but empty. Like something meaningful is missing, but they can't quite name it. That's what your kind of comfort does. It leaves a void when it's gone. Not because you made yourself essential, but because you made them feel safe in a way they didn't know they needed until it wasn't there. They start to scroll through old messages, revisit old conversations. They feel the change, even if they don't speak on it. And the strange part, they don't know how to reach for you now. Not because they can't, but because they sense something in you has shifted. You're not bitter. You're not angry. You're just done being the one they rely on when it's convenient. They feel exposed. The walls they built around themselves start to crumble little by little. Without you there to cushion them, without you to check in, without you offering that sense of stability, they find themselves standing on uncertain ground. You were their safety net, even if they never admitted it. The comfort you provided wasn't loud, it wasn't flashy, it was just there. It was the knowing that no matter how lost they might feel, you'd always have their back. When life got overwhelming or when the world seemed to spin out of control, you were the constant. You made them feel grounded, but now that grounding is gone, and they feel it. They feel the vulnerability that comes from having no one to lean on when the world feels too heavy. You were their emotional anchor. You were the person who gave them a sense of steadiness in a world that often feels like it's in a constant state of chaos. And when you stopped looking for them, when you stopped being the one to offer that support, they were left to face their own thoughts, their own struggles, without that comforting presence they took for granted. What's even harder for them to understand is that they never really realized how much you protected them. You protected their heart by being there when they were too afraid to reach out. You protected their pride by never asking for too much in return. You protected their peace by not demanding answers or explanations. You gave them room to be imperfect, to be human, without judgment. You were the shield they never knew they needed, and now, without it, they feel exposed. The rawness of their own emotions, the heaviness of their own thoughts, the vulnerability they once pushed aside, it's all there, in full view. They didn't know how much of themselves you were holding up. They didn't know how much weight you were carrying on their behalf. And now without you, they're being forced to confront all the parts of themselves they were able to ignore or push away when you were around. Their cracks, their insecurities, their self-doubt, everything that once stayed hidden behind your presence now shines through with no filter. It's a sobering realization for them. The comfort they once had, the safety they once felt is gone, and they're left standing in a world that feels less forgiving. They feel exposed not just in the way others see them, but in the way they now see themselves. They realize they've been hiding behind your kindness, your patience, your understanding. Without those things holding them up, they start to wonder who they are without you. And here's the catch, they can't go back. They can't undo the moments when you were there, and they can't recreate the space you held for them. What they're left with is the raw and polished version of themselves. The version they couldn't hide behind because you weren't there to cover for them anymore. Ego kicks in. And it doesn't take long for them to start asking themselves questions they didn't want to face before. It's almost like their sense of self is threatened. They begin to wonder, did I lose them? Did I mess up? Or even, was I ever enough? The moment you stop looking for them, it triggers something deep within them that they didn't even realize was there. The fear of not being enough. It's a quiet kind of panic, one that they don't always recognize immediately. But it starts to seep in slowly, like a cold draft creeping through the cracks in a house. They begin to question their worth in ways they never did when you were always there. When you were there, they had a sense of validation. Not because you were constantly showering them with praise, but because your presence in their life told them they mattered. They were seen. You didn't need to say it out loud. They just knew. Your consistency, your willingness to check in, your genuine care, all of that told them, you are enough for me. But when you pull back, when you stop making that effort, their ego can't help but jump to conclusions. It makes them believe that somehow they weren't enough for you anymore. It whispers that they've been discarded, that maybe they weren't as important as they thought. The ego doesn't like feeling small. It doesn't like being made to question its worth. And when someone who once invested in them stops investing, it feels like rejection. It feels like they've lost something they didn't know how to hold on to. And now there's this gap, a space they never expected. They don't just miss you. They miss the validation you unknowingly gave them. They miss the comfort of knowing that someone cared enough to stay. The ego, however, doesn't acknowledge that they might have contributed to that loss, that their own actions, or lack thereof, might have created the distance. No, the ego blames the absence on you. And this becomes a spiral. The more they wonder if they lost you, the more they question their own value. They look for evidence of their worth elsewhere, but it never quite measures up. When you were around, their worth felt real. You made them feel seen, heard, important. But now that you've stepped back, they have to face the truth. Their worth never truly came from you. It was always within them, but they never truly believed it until you were no longer there to mirror it for them. The ego doesn't like this kind of awakening. It resists it. It tries to tell them they're fine without you, that they don't need you to feel good about themselves. But deep down, they know the truth. Your absence is a reflection of their own inadequacies. You pull back, you stop reaching out, and suddenly they start wondering where you went. What happened to you? Why you're no longer a part of their life in the way you once were? It's not immediate. At first, they might not even notice. But over time, as the silence lingers, the absence starts to stand out more and more. And when they can't reach you as easily, they start to feel something shift in themselves. They start looking for you, not in the literal sense, but in the spaces you once filled. They check their phone, hoping to see a message from you. They scroll through old conversations, rereading what you said, remembering what it felt like to be in touch with you, to feel seen by you. They begin to realize how much of their world had you in it. And now that you're not there, they can't ignore the emptiness. It's not the kind of emptiness they were prepared for. It's not the void they thought they could fill with other distractions. It's a different kind of longing. It's a recognition that you were something they didn't even know they needed until it was gone. And so they start looking for you, but not for the person they once took for granted. They're looking for the version of you that used to show up. They're looking for the kindness, the care, the effort, the energy you brought. They start to ask themselves, where did that person go? And they can't help but notice how different things feel without you around. People can fill in the physical space, but they can't fill the emotional space you held. They might try to distract themselves with new faces, new conversations, new connections, but it's not the same. It's like trying to replace a melody with a different song. It just doesn't sound right. They search for you in their thoughts. They replay memories in their minds, wondering if they could have done something differently to keep you there. They search for you in their actions, hoping to find traces of the connection you once had. Maybe they reach out just to check in to see how you're doing. But it's different now. They don't know how to approach you. They don't know if they've crossed a line or if they've waited too long. They feel unsure, hesitant, almost like they're standing at the edge of something they're not sure they should cross. But they also realize something. They're looking for you, but they're looking for a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. You've changed. You've grown. You've learned what it means to protect your energy, to protect your peace. And that version of you, the one who was always there, always giving, always available, doesn't exist in the same way anymore. You've moved beyond being the person who was always chasing after someone else's approval or attention. You've stepped into a version of yourself that understands your own worth, your own needs. And now they're left searching for something they can never truly find again. Not because you've disappeared, but because you've transformed. You've learned to give to yourself what you once gave to them, and that's a journey they'll have to make on their own. Let me say this. Your energy is a currency. Stop spending it on those who treat it like spare change. When you stop looking for them, you start seeing you. And that, my friend, that's the day you take your power back.